The Sterling family's lake house was a masterpiece of cedar and glass, nestled against the New Hampshire shoreline, a view that usually soothed me. Inside, however, it was a cacophony of enforced cheer. Uncles roared over card games, younger cousins stampeded through the halls, and my mother, Lydia, commanded the kitchen, wineglass firmly in hand. I had long ago mastered the art of becoming invisible at these forced reunions, finding refuge in the shadows, specifically out of my older brother's line of sight. Julian thrived here. He was the golden center of gravity, his stories grander, his laugh louder, feeding off the attention. From a dim corner of the living room, I watched him hold court near the stone fireplace, acting out some dramatic college prank to a rapt audience. "Look who finally crawled out of the woodwork," Julian shouted, spotting me. His smile was dazzling, but I knew the sharp edge hidden beneath it. "Careful, everyone. Ilara is on the move. Hide the valuables." A ripple of laughter went around the circle. I kept my gaze fixed on the floor, making a break for the staircase. "Remember Thanksgiving?" he continued, voice rising to ensure maximum coverage. "When she completely shattered Grandma's antique vase? Cost Dad $4,000 to replace." "It was an accident," I whispered, not turning around. "That's your life story, sis. Just one long, clumsy accident." I reached the bottom step, praying he'd let it go. But I heard his heavy footsteps close the distance. By the time I hit the first landing, he was loitering right behind me. "Running away again?" His voice had dropped, dangerously close to my ear. "I'm just tired, Julian," I said. "You're always tired." He stepped around me, blocking the next flight, arms braced against the railings. "You shall not pass." Julian's eyes were arctic. I tried to duck under his outstretched arm, but his palm slammed into my shoulders with sudden, brutal force. The air vanished from my lungs in a sharp gasp before I pitched backward. The world became a blurred kaleidoscope of spinning cedar and polished oak. My spine caught the edge of a step, a sickening wooden snap echoing in the stairwell. I landed flat on the foyer floor, staring blankly at the ceiling. I tried to shift my legs, but they were leaden, entirely disconnected from my brain. Above me, the party roared on. Footsteps didn't carry concern. "Ilara, get up!" Lydia's voice sliced through the noise. "You're making a scene." Julian stood on the landing, hands in his pockets. "Just a joke," he said, his tone bored. "She's milking it." My father, Richard, appeared behind her, the scent of cigars clinging to his sweater. "You've always been too dramatic," he muttered. I looked where laughter still bubbled over the clink of silverware. My agony hadn't even paused the festivities. Only 8-year-old Mia, my cousin, crept over, her eyes wide with terror. "Are you hurt?" she whispered. "Yes," I breathed. "Then why aren't they helping?" I had no answer. I demanded a doctor, my voice cracking, but Richard just shook his head at the expense of another stunt. It was Sarah, my cousin's wife, who finally broke the spell. She saw my trembling, the way my eyes glazed with shock. Ignoring my father's barked orders to stay out of it, she dialed 911. By the time the paramedics arrived, the lead medic was already noting the older, yellowed bruises along my ribs. "Call the police," he muttered. In the sterile hospital white, Dr. Aris showed me the MRI. "This glowing arc," she said, pointing to my spine, "is a fresh compression fracture. But these shadows, ribs, collarbone, and back are older injuries in various stages of healing." I stared at the proof I'd spent a lifetime hiding. "It was never an accident," I whispered. She squeezed my hand firmly. "We believe you, Ilara." Sarah arrived, clutching her phone. She had filmed the foyer. The video showed Julian's hands on me, the cold, calculated intent in his eyes. It was proof of his violence. The legal battle was a storm of my mother's televised tears and my father's claims of my fragility. But the digital trail and medical records were ironclad. Amanda, the prosecutor, used the video to dismantle Julian's defense. When the jury returned a guilty verdict for aggravated assault, the weight that had crushed my chest for years finally lifted. My parents faced charges of criminal neglect, their reputations dissolving in the public eye. A year later, I stood at the base of the staircase in my new apartment, far from the lake house. My legs were strong now, tempered by months of grueling physical therapy. I climbed the steps slowly, not out of fear, but with a deliberate rhythm. At the top, I looked out a window at a view I had chosen myself. I wasn't just a survivor, I was the architect of my own ascent. The silence here wasn't a mask for secrets, but the sound of peace. I turned toward my desk, ready to keep writing my own life story.